Greetings from Bulgaria. You probably know who this is and you probably know why you're here. This is a special extra edition to my Sentinel Watchman guide for patch 4.0. This video is I'm going to talk in this video about the utilities. There are so many of them. There has been 3 new additions, one for Skillful, one for Masterful, one for Heroic. There has been some movement, and now I'm going to mouse over, read the description and tell you each one of these abilities, what they are good for, what I use them for, and how I combine them and why. If you're looking for specific advices on typical templates and combinations, I've created 3 of them available on my full version of my guide on my website. Link is over here somewhere on the screen. We begin with Skillful. We have equal number of utilities in each one of the 3 tiers, and unfortunately we still only have 7 available utility points. Jedi Enforcer increases the damage dealt by Rebuke by 15% and increases its duration by 4 seconds. Now let me mouse over Rebuke and show you what it does. If you want to pause the screen and read it, because I will assume that you know what it does. Very useful, and Jedi Enforcer is present in pretty much all of my builds. The next one is Debilitation. Blade Dance immobilizes the target for the duration of the ability. Purely and only useful in PvP. Jedi Crusader goes very well in combination with Jedi Enforcer, and it's one of the utility points I always spend here. While Rebuke is active, it generates 1 focus whenever you are attacked. This effect cannot occur more than once every 2 seconds. That's why I said that they go together, because Rebuke is boosted by Jedi Enforcer. The next one is Adamant. You generate 4 focus when stunned, immobilized, put to sleep or knocked around. Additionally, the cooldown of Resolute is reduced by 30 seconds. And in case you didn't know, Resolute is your generally 2-minute cooldown ability for purging all incapacitating and movement impairing effects. If you use that utility point over there, it goes down to 1.5 minute cooldown. Adamant is purely a PvP ability. I could possibly never find a use for it in PvE environment. Stoic is another must-have in all of my combinations. Increases your damage reduction by 2% and you build 2 centering when attacked. The centering building effect cannot happen more than once every global cooldown or once every 1.5 seconds. As I've mentioned, Stoic, Jedi Enforcer and Jedi Crusader are always present in all of my combinations for PvE, mind you. Trailblazer is an awesome booster for AoE environment for both PvP and PvE. Cyclone Slash deals 25% more damage. Did you know what Cyclone Slash is? It is the frontal AoE damage attack that can do 5-meter range to up to 8 targets. Raining Reach increases the range of Leg Slash to 10 meters. Additionally, Leg Slash now consumes 2 less focus. This has been moved recently all the way from Heroic. If I remember correctly, it used to be a Heroic utility. Now it's been moved up. The last one from Tier 1 Skillful is Unwavering Resolve. Activating Saber Ward grants immunity to stun, sleep, lift and incapacitating effects for 6 seconds. This is tied down to Saber Ward, and if I mouse over Saber Ward you will see why. I will tell you that this is not exactly the most useful utility. Very situational. In very few encounters and situations you would find useful that, because Saber Ward has a 3-minute cooldown and there is no way to shorten that. 3 minutes is pretty much meaning that you can only use Saber Ward once, twice, maybe up to 3, God forbid 4 times in a real boss fight environment, depending on the duration of the boss, but it is a defensive ability and I really don't know if you should use it on cooldown, so up to 2 or 3 uses per boss doesn't really justify that 1 point spent here. Again, remember, it's very situational. We begin with the Masterful. In Scissor, Force Sleep, Force Melt, Clashing Blast and Zealous Sleep snare the target, reducing its movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds. Very useful for PvP, CC and all kinds of crowd control, by the way, is always useful and beneficial for a melee DPS class in PvP. I usually use it. Ardor has been introduced, correct me if I'm wrong, with patch 3.2.1 when I made my previous guide. Transcendence no longer requires or consumes centering, but will go on cooldown for 30 seconds when activated. Transcendence is this one here, lovely ability. It gives you and everybody else in your team in 40 meters range 50% speed boost and melee and range defense boost by 10% for 10 seconds. Very, very useful for fights like, let's see, probably the transition phase in Master and Blaster. Obviously it's useful in Torque, the third boss in Ravagers, but let's move on. Defensive Throw reduces the damage taken from area effects by 30% and increases internal and elemental damage reduction by 5%. The second part of the bonus was added again with patch 3.2.1, but that's for only those few of you who would care to learn it. The fact that you meet a lot of AoE, unavoidable AoE in many boss encounters and to some extent unavoidable AoE in PvP means that Defensive Throw must be a present utility point in pretty much most builds. If you only want to focus on DPS for example, or on CC for PvP, you could avoid that, but you have to be careful. For regular PvP this is kind of a must-have. Watchguard reduces the cooldown of Pacify by 15 seconds and Force Kick by 2 seconds. Regardless, I won't be able to show. Yes, I've mentioned in the previous video, I might as well mention it here. My toolbar is a total mess because that's what happens when I switch between disciplines. I have to spend like 5-10 seconds rearranging all these skills. Like, can you imagine one of the most important spawnable abilities, Merciless Slash, being all the way over here? If you're actually interested, I would advise you to take a look at my key binding guide, which is more than 25 minutes long, and I hope that you will find useful tips there. How I arrange my binds, where I put my abilities, how do I structure everything, and why is it important to have similar key binds for most of your classes so you don't get confused, especially when you play multiple ults. Moving on to Pulse. It reduces the cooldown of Force Stasis by 15 seconds. One of the most useless utilities in my personal opinion. Could be useful in some very rare PvP environments, but there are many and more useful and fun utilities to spend your points on for PvP than this one. Just personal opinion. Displacement increases the range of Pacify by 6 meters and allows Rebuke to be used while stunned. This is kind of a good boost. I personally do not pick it, but it might be useful. Force Fade increases your movement speed by 15% and the movement speed bonus of Force Camouflage by 20%. Additionally increases the duration of Force Camouflage by 2 seconds. Force Camouflage is, just because it says camouflage, the self-stealth ability. It has a 45-second cooldown, and I will not read the full description, but if you like to, you can pause the video and read it yourself. Useful ability mostly because of the speed boost. I like being quicker as a melee DPS. Inspired Focus. Inspiration generates 12 focus when activated. Remember, 12 is the maximum amount of focus, and it is a very rare occasion or situation where you would want to activate Inspiration and fully benefit from these 12 points. Usually, I don't use that, and I wouldn't advise you to use it unless you're desperate and starving for focus often. Inspiration is a very long cooldown ability. It has a 5-minute cooldown. Where is it? That's Inspiration. 5-minute cooldown means that these 12 points of focus is a good boost, but absolutely totally situational. And with this, a very quick recap. The good utilities for Masterful in my personal prediction for PvE are Ardor, Defensive Throw, and to some extent Force Fade. Jumping on down to the Heroic. Fleet-footed. When Transcendence is applied or refreshed, it purges movement impairing effects. Additionally, the movement speed bonus of Transcendence is increased by 30%. That's one of the most useful utilities for, let's say, Underlurker, the third boss in Temple of Sacrifice. I usually always slot this one. The next one is Expunging Camouflage, otherwise Fleet-footed is a totally optional utility. Expunging Camouflage, Force Camouflage removes all cleansable effects when activated. Remember, you need to know what the fight is, what kind of what kind of CC you get applied to you, and when and how expunging camouflage could actually make the difference. It's a very, very useful utility for some specific boss fights, and I will leave it up to you, or maybe if you watch my other guides for operation bosses and live streams, you will discover which bosses I use that for. The next one is Jedi Promulgator, one of my most favorite utilities, and I usually slot that in most of my combination. Each use of Strike, Zilla Strike and Leg Slash reduces the active cooldown of Rebuke by 3 seconds. Remember, it is that Rebuke again. We already got boosts for Rebuke from the Skillful role, and now we get another one. Just pursue it. Description: Leg Slash immobilizes the target for 3 seconds. This immobilizing effect cannot be applied to the same target more than once every 10 seconds. Strictly only reserved for PvP. Probably in a good combination with, let's say, in SWTOR and wherever. There we have it, Raining Reach. I was looking for that one, wasn't really sure where it was. Moving down, we have Enduring. Increases the duration of Guarded by the Force by 2 seconds and reduces its cooldown by 30 seconds. If you don't know, Guarded by the Force has a 3-minute cooldown, making it very, very rare, situational and kind of pointless for most boss encounters, and even for PvP. Because for a 3-minute span you can get killed 30 times. Well, that's a little bit of an overstatement. But my point is that this is very good and useful for specific tactics and boss mechanics. Let's say, I believe the only actually real place where I have found good use for this is the beam from Master in the Master and Blaster boss fight. That's the 4th boss in the Ravager's operation. Zealous Ward. Getting attacked while Saber Ward is active heals you for 3% of your maximum health. This effect cannot occur more than once every second. Why I don't like this one? On first glimpse, it is a cool self-heal effect, but then we realize that it's bound to Saber Ward 3-minute cooldown. No thank you. Very, very situational ability again. Contemplation is another one of my favorites, though I don't use it as often as I did before. It reduces the cooldown of Awe by 15 seconds. In addition, you build up to 30 centering over the course of using Introspection. This effect cannot occur more than once every 30 seconds. What this means is that the AoE ability goes down to 45 seconds cooldown instead of 1 minute, and while you're using Introspection, which I called actually meditation because that's what it is, in the span of that you will build the 30 centering ready for Zen, Transcenders or Inspiration right from the get-go before you even begin combat. Very, very useful for PvP, I should say. The last one is Cut Loose. Blade Blitz can be used while immobilized and purges movement impairing effects when activated. I would like to share that, in my personal opinion, Blade Blitz is a total crap of a new ability for PvE. You may find it useful here and there once or twice, trying to maybe escape things or maybe move quicker, because while moving this for like 1.5 seconds you are immune with 100% defensive boost. And the fact that with this utility point you can use it while you're immobilized, and it also purges movement impairing effects, make it very good utility point for PvP. Let's say those snipers will not destroy you anymore before you even get a chance to reach them. Remember that the downside is that the Blade Blitz is not bound to a target, so you always move 20 meters ahead, regardless of where you are, where your target is, where you want to be. You always move in a spinning rotation 20 meters forward. This is it. Short, not very short, hopefully useful. Description and overview of all the utility points for patch 4.0. This video is actually useful for both my guides for Watchman and Combat, and I will be linking it to both of my video guides and to both of my text guides on my website. I hope you guys find it useful. If you have questions or suggestions, I'm open. Share them anywhere you see the name Vulk. I will always read and answer you. That's it. Thank you very much for watching this one. If you enjoyed it, do not forget the like, share and favorite buttons, because that's important. Thank you guys. See you next time. Bye bye.